But look, it's a slick piece of Taliban propaganda. It's aimed at a number of audiences. These audiences are internal and external. There are two centres of gravity in this conflict. One is public opinion in the West, and the other one is within Afghanistan itself. The most critical factor in the long-term stability of Afghanistan is building a very large Afghan national security force, both soldiers and police. This sort of incident and the spate of what are referred to as green on blue contacts is designed to create a crisis in confidence amongst Western or international trainers of Afghan security forces. This is our soldiers in Uruzgan province, who this particular individual fired upon back in November. And the other major factor is, as I said, external to the theatre, public opinion in the West. Most countries would like to get out sooner rather than later for domestic political and as well as financial reasons. When you're sending your young men off to dangerous conflict zones, you've clearly got a duty of care, and you certainly don't want your local partners firing upon your soldiers in the field. And the most recent incident was a very egregious one that was targeted at the French.
So how widespread do you think are these rogue elements within Afghanistan security forces?
Look, that's the key point. This fellow was rogue. A viewing of the Taliban propaganda video will tell you that. As soon as he'd fired upon Australian and Afghan personnel, he fled and immediately sought assistance from the insurgency, and they've used him for their own propaganda purposes, as we've seen. There has been quite a few incidents that have taken place since around 2007, 2008. More than 60 coalition personnel have been killed in these incidents, and the ADF unfortunately experienced a spate of these last year that resulted in the deaths of 4 personnel.
It doesn't look like there'll be any real end to them. Do you think there could be more attacks like the one launched by Mohammed Rouzi?
Look, it's a very difficult thing to try and contain. The United States, I know, was looking to triple the number of counter intelligence personnel that will try and really identify these rogue elements before they can conduct a very egregious sort of attack. But once again, it's certainly when I went to the theatre on a number of occasions over the last couple of years and met with that NATO subsidiary command, the NATO training mission in Afghanistan, they say when they investigate these incidences, it's due to friction rather than any sort of systemic infiltration of the Afghan national security forces. But look, the friction is a real worry as well. The United States commissioned a report last year after a number of its personnel were killed in similar sorts of incidences, and focus testing revealed that there's a great cultural divide between the Western soldiers that are training Afghan soldiers and indeed their charges in the field. Their perceptions and views of each other are really poles apart, and that's a difficult thing to try and address.